this will be our last video in this series on managing stress and just the difficulties of the COVID-19 pandemic. The reason that we're ending this series is because we're going to be launching a new class, which is the Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy course. That's a live, interactive 50-minute class each week, and it will be with both myself and a group of peers. And the benefits of mindfulness are just mind-blowing. So mindfulness has been scientifically proven to lower stress levels, actually increase our relationship satisfaction. It improves cognitive functioning for things like memory and focus and attention. And it just, in general, makes us feel better. We have a higher sense of well-being and compassion for both ourselves and others. So there's a ton of benefits. And I hope that if you're at all interested in this class, that you would consider reaching out to us or signing up on our website, newlondoncounselingcenter.com. For our last video, I want to focus on our future. What's next for us? Eric Klinenberg is a professor of sociology who was recently quoted in a magazine saying, "The coronavirus pandemic is going to cause immense pain and suffering, but it will force us to reconsider who we are and what we value. And in the long run, it could help us rediscover the better version of ourselves." This resonated with me because I really do think that we are changed, possibly forever. I just can't imagine that we're going to go back to exactly the way things were after all of this is done. And it's been such a life-changing event for so many Americans that I think that the world is going to look a little bit different when all of this is over. I think it's possibly going to change how schools are run, how business decisions are made, how doctors provide services. The possibilities are endless. But whatever the case is, there's a lot to mourn from what we have lost, including loved ones that have become ill, or friendships that have gotten disconnected, or businesses that have had to close. So there is a lot of mourning and certainly a lot of trauma around all of this. But there's also a future. And that's what I want to focus on tonight. In the midst of all of this uncertainty, there is a future that lies ahead of us. And I think it's important to keep that in perspective, that this too shall pass. All of this will at some point come to an end, and we will have to figure out how to pull the pieces together and to move on. And so I want to think about whether or not we are living the life that we want to live when all of this is done. And so tonight I'm going to focus on considering what our values are and how we are living our lives and whether or not that is congruent with how we want to be living our lives. And now is the time to start thinking about what matters most to you and whether your life reflects those values. When you picture the life that you want to be living, is it consistent with how you are actually living? Although we have restrictions to do certain things and go certain places, there's no reason why we can't be living meaningful, purposeful lives right now at this moment. The humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers, whom I just think is amazing, he theorized that we have an actual self and an ideal self. So our actual self is how we really are to the world. That's kind of our self-image, or the way that we view ourselves. And then we also have an ideal self, which is how we want to be living, how we want to be perceived by others and by ourselves. And when those two things aren't congruent or they aren't overlapping, then that's when we get psychological problems like anxiety and stress and tension. So the more that we can be living a life that we want to be living, then the less problems that we're going to have. So let's try this exercise. If you get out a piece of paper and you draw two circles on the piece of paper next to one another. Above the circle on the left, write the word actual. And above the circle on the right, write the word ideal. Then let's start with the actual circle. So start by describing how you think, how you look, how you feel, and how you act right now. So this is a description of your self-image. How do you see yourself? This could be written as a bunch of adjectives that describe you or a narrative of how you view yourself. Then take a few minutes to think about your ideal self. Who do you want to be? This may be a description of how you want to think, how you want to feel, how you want to look, or how you want to act. And that might be based on what your parents taught you or what society values or just things that you admire in other people. But again, you can write a series of adjectives to describe traits or qualities that you would like to possess. Or you can write a narrative of how you would like to be. And then take a few minutes to really examine both of those circles and consider, is the actual self the same as the ideal self? How much do those two circles overlap? And if there isn't much overlap, or there are very glaring things in which they're not congruent, then that's where you're going to get the majority of your stress and your tension and your anxiety. So let's see if there's any way that we can align how we are actually living our lives with how we want to be living our lives. And I'll give you a very simple example of this. So let's say one of the ideal qualities that we want to possess is honesty. But somebody is lying about the hours that they've worked on their timesheet. Well, that's going to cause a stress and a tension because the ideal value is honesty. But in actuality, there's dishonesty. And so when that happens and there's tension, and that can result in things like guilt or stress or anxiety, worrying about whether or not they're going to get caught, that type of thing. So when we act more consistent with how we want to act, then we reduce all of those problems and we have a greater sense of well-being and happiness. So if we're behaving now in ways that are consistent with who we want to be, then we're going to live happier, richer, more fulfilling lives right now. So is there anything that you really value that you're not doing? And if so, how can you bring that into your life to make your life more meaningful and purposeful right now in this moment? Our current circumstances are a great opportunity for us to examine every part of our lives and decide if we are living the life that we are called to. Are your relationships rich and fulfilling? Is your spiritual life nourished and healthy? Are you pursuing a passion or doing something that you find meaningful or purposeful? Are you making this world a better place? And if not, what can you do about it? How can you change that? A few months ago, the pause button got pushed for all of us without a choice, and parts of our lives came to a screeching halt. But instead of just seeing that as an inconvenience, why not view it as an opportunity to do a very careful self-examination of who we are and what we value and whether or not we are the best version of ourselves? And if not, what can we do to change that? Because I think that right now is the best time to start living life fully alive. And the only way to do that is to have some self-awareness and some insight into how we are living our lives. And if it's not the way that we want to, then what can we do to change that? I really hope that throughout this series that you've walked away with something meaningful that has touched you or moved you or changed you in some way. And I hope that you can take that and carry that forward and continue to grow and to heal. And we really appreciate the time that you have spent with us. If you want to find out more information about New London Counseling Center and what we do and why we do it, please check out our website. Also, we have a lot of other educational resources available on our website from both myself and some of the other therapists. So please feel free to check those out as well. Share them with friends, post them on social media, and we'd love to hear from you. I hope you all are doing well and take care.
New London Counseling Center is still offering telehealth services to both new and existing clients regardless of financial situation. If you or someone you know would like to schedule an appointment with a member of our licensed clinical team, call 484-746-3112. Thank you for watching and for the generous contributions of those who have made mental health care accessible in our community. Want to take a more in-depth look at how to unwind, recharge, and live life with less stress and more calm? Follow the link in the description to sign up for alerts on our upcoming mindfulness-based cognitive therapy class.